this to say to the modern young girl, gentlemen: be free, express yourself, take your life in your own hands and mold it. The world will try to rob you of your freedom, but fight for it. It's all you have to live for.
Just relax.
That's all for the modern girl, gentlemen. What else? Ask me anything.
Okay, oh, stay like that. I don't think you will, but literally in the same sentence. Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin and welcome to my channel. So today's video is all about a vintage Vogue reproduction from 1951. This is my first experience working with a reproduction pattern or a modern pattern at all. Prior to this, I have worked with vintage patterns, and so there's a little bit of differences that happened between vintage patterns and modern day patterns. The most important one being that modern day patterns like this one that I used in this video include more than one size of the dress when you order it. Now, vintage patterns are packaged a little bit differently. They actually have just one size, so you know your size and you order it and it's a done deal. There's a big difference there when it comes to what you get in the actual pattern. When it came to cutting this out and preparing it, that was already a very different step for me. So it was a new experience to say the least. And before we begin, an important tidbit to know is I made this dress twice. Well, almost. Long story short, I thought I'd bought enough fabric to have the plaids line up. I in fact had not. I tried to line up the plaids on the skirt portion. Quickly realized I didn't have enough fabric to do that, so it's gonna look a little avant-garde, maybe. But continued on with the endeavor, thinking it could be a growing experience.
I'm breezy.
One of the leading issues with this pattern and why I ended up making two dresses were the sizing differences. I picked the same size that I would have in a vintage pattern, not based off of the number, but by the actual measurements. It just happened to align, and it still ended up being too large for me. So I ended up having to size down. And yes, I could have avoided that mishap by making a mock-up.
I confess that right now. I could have made a mock-up. I didn't because I didn't want to.
However, it wouldn't have ended up saving me in the disaster that was aligning the plaids, because again, I just didn't have enough plaid to begin with. So I probably would have ended up making a mock-up and then a plaid dress and then another plaid dress. That would have been 3 dresses, and I was already pretty ticked after having to remake the one. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it worked out for me better this way than had I made the mock-up. So I bought more fabric plus extra and started over with Strawberry Dress 2.0.
Mesurer du corps, ajuster le patron.
Maybe do it again right now. Keep rolling.
Lining up these plaids is the hardest thing I have yet done in my sewing journey. I have worked with plaids before, which is what gave me the false confidence that this was going to be so easy. One of us is going to come out a winner, me or the dress, and it's going to be me because by default, if I win, the dress wins. Okay.
Let me do it again right now. Keep rolling.
If you felt any urgency or uptick in adrenaline watching day 1 3/4, well, good. Mischief managed. You should have. Cutting the pieces was by far the most stressful part of this dress. Plus, you saw me have to do another front bodice piece because I had made 2 of the same plaid pattern by folding over the fabric to cut the pieces together, when what I needed was 2 bodice pieces to be a continuation of the plaid pattern. If that makes any sense at all, and if it doesn't, don't worry about it. After I knew I had accomplished matching up all the pieces, it was relatively smooth sailing from there, thank goodness. Day 2-ish, I spent a lot of focus on the bodice. I ironed the interfacing, which provides stability and structure to the front, giving it a nice, crisp, clean finish, as well as attaching the facing. Ironing the front of the bodice once the facing was sewn to it has to be one of the most satisfying moments for me. I love the clean, crisp finish. Have I said that enough? Clean, crisp. It just looks great. I was lucky in that I was able to save some of the pieces from 1.0 to use on 2.0, like the collar and facings, so that all I had to do was make some slight adjustments to get them ready for 2.0. Once that was done, it was time to attach the collar and then attach the bodice to the skirt. Wait, what?
Son of a bitch.
No! I was right? How did that happen? How did I get on the skirt back? Oh, brain cells are starting to go. Okay. Interfacing was also used on the cuffs, so I attached it by ironing it to one of the cuff pieces and then reinforced it by sewing it down. Then the cuffs were turned out and attached to each sleeve. There was a cuff facing, sleeve facing, I don't know what it was called, but it went over the cuff after it had been basted to the sleeves. The facing covers where the cuff is attached to the bodice to once again give a clean finish and cover the raw edges. There was a bit of hand sewing that also happened and enclosed the raw edges as I mentioned before. Picking out what movie to put on in the background while I finish up this dress. And the selection is going to be...
I was also deciding how I wanted to close the front, which I really didn't want to do buttons on as the pattern called for because I was tired. So I decided to go with large hook closures, thinking it would give a sleek line, and I loved the idea. So alterations were needed despite going with a different size in 2.0. And I took in an additional chunk on each side of the bodice and then had to make some adjustments in the skirt too because of that. So sewing can be a bit like that game Whack-A-Mole, where if you fix one issue, another will pop up as a result. So that's my very basic explanation of alterations as I've experienced them.
Son of a bitch.
So Whack-A-Mole, remember? I'd put the zipper in already, and after marking the alterations, needed to adjust the zipper, which is on the right side of the dress. I'm sure there was a more efficient way involving alterations before inserting the zipper, but this worked. Also not pictured was me undoing the stitches of the hook closures. There was quite a bit of doing and undoing during this phase to get the right fit, line, look, and comfort. Buttonholes done. And buttons on. Before hemming the bottom, I leveled off the raw edges to ensure I'd have an even hem later. I marked the hem I thought I wanted, then ironed it and pinned it to see how it looked. Then I sewed the hem, but left the raw edges and finishing for the next day to hand sew. Before I hand sewed, I turned the raw edge a 1/4 inch and ironed, and then began sewing it closed. I think many who sew would agree that hand sewing can be very relaxing. Sometimes I listen to audiobooks, or sit outside, or both, or sing to pass the time. On this day, it was the latter. There is something really special to me about passing the time singing and thinking about how this was one of the original ways songs were taught, by listening to others while they're singing and passing the workday a bit faster, and then later on, someone copying and singing it themselves. And fun fact, that's why we also have so many variations of the same song.
We'll have a blue room, a new room for 2 rooms, where every day's a holiday, because you're married to me. Not like a hall room. Oops. Not like a ballroom, a small room, a hall room, where I can smoke my pipe away, with your wee head upon my knee. We will thrive on, keep alive on, just nothing but kisses with me. Mr. and Mrs. own little blue chair. You'll sew your trousseau, and Robinson Crusoe is not so far from worldly cares as our blue room far away upstairs. I love that song.
I used a vintage belt making kit to make the belt for the dress. It originally cost 29 cents and consisted of basic directions, the belt buckle front and back, belt piece, and adhesive. That no doubt dried up at least 40 years ago, so I used a fabric glue I had on hand. So when I was flipping the belt inside out, I was using a safety pin to do so and realized that I attached the safety pin incorrectly and had trapped it on the inside.
Oh my gosh.
That's not right, is it?
Whoops.
How does that get? This was a disaster.
Son of a bitch.
How did I do that? How do I get that out? And now it's open. How do I close it? Help me. I'm just gonna have to rip it open.
Let me do it again right now. Keep rolling.
Here is the belt covered with the fabric, and now it was time to assemble the belt. So there was that piece of adhesive that I mentioned before that was completely dried out, and so I'm using the fabric glue instead and completely improvising as I put together the belt buckle piece and cover it. And then sew the actual belt to the belt buckle and try it out. Ta-da!
Before this video wraps up, I want to say thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below. I can't get over the rhyming. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about this dress pattern, or if you would like to see the flailing failure that was the Strawberry Ice Dress 1.0. All right, I will see you all next time. Bye.